Hey everyone, Dan here. Before we get into it, if you enjoy these videos, please hit the like and subscribe button. And keep in mind that these are my own thoughts, opinions, and ideas. These are not meant to be, nor should you take them as, investment or trading advice in any way, shape, or form. Do your own due diligence, put in the work for yourself, and make your decisions based on that. Enjoy! Alright folks, here we are on Wednesday, June 26th. We're going to take a look at Palantir today. So it's been a few months since we've looked at Palantir, and I wanted to come check in on the levels on the Webull chart. We'll flip over to the Think or Swim study as well in a little bit and see where things stand and just sort of get a general sense of where we are on the chart and what we might look for in the days and weeks ahead. So overall, this is the chart that's been set for months. It still is acting and performing really well, in my opinion. And so here we are. That big push up that sort of tested toward-ish, or at least toward-ish the most that we've seen, toward 30, that topped out at 2750, as you know, sort of put in this head and shoulders that folks are watching quite a bit. It did sell off, sort of got close to 20, but it didn't fall out of the 20s, which is pretty interesting. Essentially pinned itself more or less to this 2121 that we had on the chart, and then has recently made a couple of bumps up, one bump up to the 2310, and then an attempt at this 2679 level, which failed and fell short, and now has receded or retraced back down to the 2417 level. So in an interesting way, it did have that sell-off, consolidated, and then when it pushed, and then it pushed again, consolidate, secondary push. When it pulled back, at least for now, it did not need to pull back and fully retest that 2310. The candle here, the low on this day was 2330. So I know it may feel like sort of splitting hairs, but as we've seen in the past, those things can be good signals of maybe longer term potential for bullish strength, even through several or even lengthy consolidation periods that we could be seeing ahead. We've obviously already incorporated one lengthy-ish one, certainly not the lengthiest that we've seen in Palantir history. There's some really long consolidation periods in Palantir's history, but as it pertains to just sort of like recent moves, this was lengthier, and then this was not lengthy, but it was clearly a brief consolidation. And so that's where we are for now. So we'll see if it can continue to pin itself or consolidate or build on this 2417. Like I say, if so, that could be some pretty positive signal, even if it is relatively sideways, just being that it doesn't need to come down and retest that 2310. And I do think even on this sell-off, the fact that it didn't slip itself out of the 20s when it could have had every opportunity to, right? Folks panic and just sort of feel that the market cap at a price per share above 20 is just too much. That didn't happen. Even though it sold off a decent percentage, around $7 or so. So pretty interesting there. Now, if it does continue to push 2510, 2679, then 28 on the dot, 2919 are the ones that I would look for leading up to 30. If it does pull back and retest that 2310 and it doesn't hold, there might be something sort of building here around 2190, like just shy or just below 22. So maybe look for that. Otherwise, 2121, 2001, 1919, and 18 on the dot. So we have a lot of ground covered here, but it's just because we've been tracking it forever. I don't feel that these levels are so far in that they are super obnoxious, but it can look a little bit cluttered for sure. I will give you that. Now, if we pull these off for a second, just sort of see where we're situated EMA wise. The 183 EMA still has this whole setup, this whole situation very much in a bullish motion. The lows here before that big gap up on earnings, that was also sort of holding steady, holding the line at the 183 EMA, and it came down, close in on the dip here, but was able to push off before it needed to test its, had flipped the shorter term EMAs bearish, but was able to, for now at least, flip them back again, and for now holding steady with support over that 34, sometimes the 21 EMA, and we'll see how those continue to take shape. But really strong presence of the 183. If it does get dippy, and pushes, I'd maybe look toward that as well. but that even right now is situated at 2050. So even that is, pretty well above that $20 psychological level. So that's pretty interesting to me. Now I'll pull these back in, and just another quick look here. Analyst ratings kind of spread at the moment, but the average target 2145. Not that we take these too seriously, but to the extent to which that affects any folks buying in retail or large scale orders or whatnot. Now, large scale orders the last 5 days, unless something dramatic changes today, coming in, with some pretty big outflow, some pretty big sells. So we'll see if that persists and what sort of pressure that might put on it. Now, the cost distribution getting pretty interesting because the total profited shares proportion right now is above 70%, so getting quite high, and certainly good for folks who have profited shares. Question becomes, what's their sort of appetite, or how much will they stomach for if there is a bit of a pullback and they start to see their profited shares dwindling or flipping to unprofitable shares. We'll see what that sort of results in. Certainly on that most recent dip, it was able to recover so well that it took a pretty big hit. But like I said, it had every opportunity, in my opinion, at that moment for folks to flee and push it below 20, and it did not happen. Shorts not really piling in, just kind of steady state / slightly lower than recent highs or even recent averages. Days to cover, ticking up a little bit, but nothing really truly tremendous on that front. Now, on the think or swim side of things, we see here, interestingly, on this oscillator down here, let me zoom in a little more. This oscillator down here, we had sort of flat candles here at the moment, and the oscillator seems like it might be dipping a little bit. So maybe something to keep an eye on there if that does sort of evolve into a greater divergence. You also see like this candle and then this rising candle here, back-to-back days, and the oscillator continuing to dip. So we'll see if that is divergence that could foreshadow some some further dipping, and whether or not that stays within the channel or not, we'll have to see. It was recently out of the upper bound of the channel, so showing some strong bullish momentum there. Now, histogram wise, dying down in the TTM squeeze indicator, it was a nice quick call out on the TTM squeeze indicator, very brief trigger, but then when it fired, it did bring it from, on this firing day, it was the last trigger was at about 23 or so, and it did take it up to about 26. So a stock that's pushed so much and has had such a lengthy history of volatility, like Palantir, is a pretty good call out to sort of squeeze a little bit more juice out of this overall bullish run. So interesting there. For now, draws into the channel, tests the mid-range, and has held for now. So again, we'll see if this divergence means anything, or if it's going to be able to continue to hold and push even higher, or if it is going to take a breath and sort of consolidate over a lengthier period of time. Now, even if it does get dippy and it comes down and tests the lower bound of the channel, right? It doesn't pop out, but it tests it. Even that right now is just situated at 2159. So again, not saying that folks would want to lose that percentage in their shares from the present day 24 down to about 2160 or so, but again, psychologically speaking, it would at least keep it really far away. Like, that's pretty far off from that psychological $20 level. So that's sort of what I'm mostly having in view at the moment. Now, if we just take a quick look at the ATR levels, let's look at the swing levels just to sort of see where it's situating itself. So this goes by month. So these reset at the end of the month, as you see here. This is the last trading day of the month, 6/28, and then as we get into here, that's 7/1. And so call trigger here will be, at least for now, this is dynamic, so this will adjust day over day, but 25, 28-ish at the moment on the call trigger for July, 28, 25, 30, you see it shifting there. But right now it's sort of just kind of hitting this first level here. It does have an additional stretch level up here, 26.52, as you see right there. Certainly staying well off of, you see that the puts level right now under 2054 that's down here would have a full -1 ATR all the way down to 1684. But like we said, holding strong in the channel for now, pushing off of the mid-range of the channel, and just sort of hitting some resistance where you would expect it to at this first interim level on its way to the full +1 ATR, which it did reach on this push here up out of the channel, and then quickly retreated back to the mid-range of the channel. So those have been sort of showing and presenting really well. So we'll see how that persists for the rest of this week, and then as we get into July, what that reset looks like on the ATR levels, and sort of how close or far away it is from either the call trigger or the put trigger. You see here, just as a note, it was coming in sort of mid-range, right? Call, put. It was coming in the mid-range, and then it got itself to the call trigger here around June 6th, and sort of waffled around with that, hit its head off of the channel, reconfirmed the call trigger, and that's when it took off and played out that full expansion of the +1 ATR level to about 2652. So good move there, sort of a textbook move if you were able to catch it. I mean, even sometimes when things are textbook, they can't, you just can't catch it. You just don't see it until after the fact, which can be annoying, but such is life and trading. All right, folks, I hope that your trading week has been going well. Happy hump day, by the way. And as always, I appreciate you watching, and I will see you in the next video.